Welcome to programming Vectric gadgets using Lua and HTML. This is not a comprehensive study of Lua, HTML, or Vectric software, but a simple method for creating the web page interface needed to modify the information your gadget uses to perform its functions. A link to the Vectric Gadget developer's information is posted below, where you can find the Gadget SDK and documentation, along with the installation instructions. Lua and HTML pages can be created with almost any text editor. There are also programs you can use to design HTML pages. I prefer to use Notepad++ for both. A link will be posted below. The Square Gadget we will be creating will show the basics for a simple gadget with a user interface. In part 1 you set up your Lua and HTML pages. Coded a basic HTML interface. Then coded the main function for a Lua program, and tested the gadget by checking if a project had been started in V-Carve Pro. In part 2 you learned how to call the HTML page for the gadget interface, created a new function to draw the square, and coded the square button to draw the square on the open project. Part 3 focused on accessing data from the gadget HTML page to change the size of the square and its location. In part 4 you will learn how to flip the drawing about the job center. For the mirror process, you will be adding code to access the data from the gadget HTML page, using the same method as the drawing functions. This process will require a line to flip about, determined by 2 assigned points. For this process, the points will simulate lines on the x and y axis 0 points. Go back to the Lua page, and in the main function, add the lines to initiate the text box and radio buttons for the mirror process. Move to the DrawSquare function and add the variables for the points, radio button index, and the vertical and horizontal lines to flip about, using reflection matrix 2D. Move down past the line 2 section. The mirror process will be performed after the square has been configured. Add an if-then-else statement to handle the mirror function. The if section checks to see if the mirror checkbox status is true or false. If false, the statement is exited without doing anything. If true, the next statement is processed. You will be using dialog boxes, like in the center corner start process in part 3, to test the mirror index selection. Save the page and start the Square Gadget. With the mirror checkbox unchecked, click the square button. The square should be drawn. Now check the mirror checkbox and click the square button again. A dialog box opens showing which radio button is checked. If the wrong dialog box is showing for the selected radio button, switch the mirror index number from 1 to 2 in the else statement. Deleting the squares one at a time shows that the gadget has been drawing the square every time we click the square button, so that part of the gadget has not been affected. In the Lua page, clear the message box lines from the if-then-else statement. Enter the code to flip the square about the vertical or horizontal axis, taking care to enter the correct vertical and horizontal variables to match, determined when you tested with the dialog boxes. Save the page and start the Square Gadget. Test all the functions on the gadget. This is a simple, limited function gadget, but it shows the basic method of creating an interface, how to access the data to create and manipulate vectors, and assigning them to the active layer in the open project. This series is not an in-depth tutorial on Vectric, Lua, or HTML. What you have learned in this tutorial series is the basic requirements to create a working gadget to simplify some of your work in Vectric. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to be notified of future videos.